I know the entire internet is out to destroy Colin Bridgerton, but I'm on the opposite side of that. It took some time, but I now find his character to be pretty interesting and also kind of sympathetic. And keep in mind, this is all coming from a former Colin hater. Like, I did not like this kid, but now I do. And I want to use this video to talk about him a bit more because clearly the show doesn't. Disclaimer as usual, these are just my opinions. Feel free to comment yours, just remember to be respectful. Also, I'm recording this at like 9 in the morning. My voice is not fully warmed up, so just bear with me. I didn't like Colin in part 1. I thought the show was just trying to give him the same storyline as Anthony and Simon, the reformed rake with daddy issues storyline that we've seen a million times. But I like what the show did instead. It took me a while to finally understand and like Colin because I had forgotten about his character in previous seasons. If you've never watched the show and just started with season 3, or if you forgot about past seasons like I did, I would definitely understand the dislike towards him. But I think reflecting back on previous seasons is necessary, so let's get into it. When we first meet Colin in season 1, his personality traits are pretty clear. I have 3 sisters myself, and I've always been fascinated by how someone's place in a family can affect their personality. Colin is one of the younger brothers, and all the stereotypes are true. He's naive, playful, youthful, and sensitive. He didn't really know his purpose in life, and also didn't really know himself. This was pretty clear in comparison to his older brothers. Anthony has found purpose in being the Viscount and looking after his family. Benedict used to find purpose in art, but his character growth is currently on hold until 2026. But Colin, he doesn't really know what to do. Anthony's purpose reflected his straightforward personality. Benedict's reflected his more easygoing one. Colin's personality has always been more sensitive and caring. I think he's been trying to find a purpose that reflects that, but ever since we met him in season 1, his sensitivity and care seems to have been taken advantage of quite a bit. Colin thought that maybe he could find his identity and purpose by being a husband to Marina. He's clearly a hopeless romantic and has a love at first sight moment with her. I feel like him being a hopeless romantic is because of his age. Throughout season 1, everyone's acknowledging that Colin is pretty young and maybe he should slow down a bit to think things out.
I know you were still rather green, and that is my fault. I should have taken you to brothels when you returned home from Eton. So if this is simply a matter of wetting your wick...
Surely, though, Colin is a touch young for marriage.
But Colin is so eager to court Marina. He proposes, he wants a grand wedding. He even says that he would rather wait until he's married to Marina to have their first time. It's clear that this isn't a very common thing for men at the time, or even now, to be so eager about the prospect of marriage. It's also said time and time again that a love match is rare. But even Marina acknowledges that it's something deeper. It's like the eagerness in the love.
He's not like the other young men who play games and guard their affections. He is eager.
I think the best modern day comparison I can think of on the spot is like puppy dog love. Unfortunately, we don't see much of that either. I hate my life. There's a scene later on where Anthony confronts Colin, asking if Colin compromised Marina because Anthony can't think of any other reason as to why someone would want to get married so quickly.
I'm a gentleman. Then why ever would you...
Why does anyone marry, brother? For love, of course.
It's clear from this conversation that Colin doesn't see any other reason for marriage. To him, marriage is not an agreement for the families. It's not a mutual decision between the couple. The only reason is just love. Like I said, puppy dog. But Colin gets so swept up in a fantasy and his feelings, and after a series of very unfortunate events, he gets taken advantage of. This humiliates him, especially because he was warned and advised to be cautious by so many people. It was just him that couldn't see it, and the season ends with him going away on some travels. In season 2, Colin returns from his travels not really changed. Yeah, he's more tan, but if anything, his travels kind of made him feel worse. He's been thinking about the situation with Marina so much to the point where it's almost haunting him. Like, he's asking Eloise how Marina's doing. Just look at his face, he's clearly not okay. He gets into his sensitivity and decides to visit Marina. He admits that throughout his travels, he thought a lot about her. She kind of breaks his heart again by telling him to grow up and to stop getting caught in fantasies. Ouch. She also advised him to look at Penelope a bit more, but he didn't take that either. He starts to wonder what his purpose is in life again. If people keep rejecting his sensitive side, maybe he should just give it up. But who even is he then? Feeling even more lost than season 1, he goes away on some more travels to answer that question. So before we continue, I think it's important to acknowledge Colin's flaws from these past 2 seasons because it helps us understand his season 3 character even more. He clearly struggles with a hero complex. Remember this because it will come back later. He also struggles with insecurities, and I don't blame him. He's put a lot of love into relationships that was never reciprocated. People probably don't respect him as much as they should because of his age, which is weird because if you really look at their family, he's on the older side. He's older than Daphne. I've noticed that in every family interaction, Colin is always grouped with the 2 youngest siblings, Gregory and Hyacinth. I guess it's because Daphne, even though she's younger than Colin, she's the oldest daughter, so she's treated a bit differently than him. Anyways, I feel like one of Colin's biggest flaws is that he feels like he needs to do something to earn love. In season 3, Colin returns looking much different and also acting much different. He's turned into someone that we as the audience don't recognize, which is why I think a lot of people didn't like him. He acts in a certain way that, to be frank, gave me the ick. But this is what he thinks society wants from him, to be insincere and rakish. He also has new friends that are encouraging this rakish side of him. Colin seems to really play into this side to please and entertain them. But there are people in his life who know the real him, his family, and Pen. They all question who he is now.
I must know, who are you? What have you done with our brother?
Pen knows him the best and clearly loves the sensitive side of him the most. This leads her to call him out in the Whistledown papers. Just as we think that maybe the real Colin is gone, Penelope reads one of his journal entries where he marvels at how someone can be so physically close to a person without feeling any sense of intimacy. This is proof that the real Colin is still there. He's just buried under a layer of the rakish persona. I think the kiss he shares with Penelope is when that persona starts to crumble. Every sexual and romantic interaction he had was never emotional for both sides. And also, just in season 3, it's always been with more than one person. Whether he's flirting with a group of young ladies or hooking up with people, it wasn't emotional on both parts. And prior to season 3, with the interactions he had with Marina, the love wasn't reciprocated. But the kiss with Pen makes him realize that Pen might be the only woman who's ever reciprocated his love and care, and this connection is what he's been searching for all along. I thought it was so funny how his dream with Pen is literally just her saying, "I like you back," and then they make out. This is what he's always wanted. After the dream, his new rakish attitude starts to crumble. He's super soft around Pen, stuttering in their conversations, getting tongue-tied when she eats cake, staring at her so intensely, when is it my turn? But he doesn't want to stop her from getting with Lord Debling. He cares about her and wants her to be happy. He tries to keep the rakish persona up, but even he's beginning to get sick of it. This is proven in that scene later with his friends. He asks them if they want something more than this, something that's meaningful and will last. And he asks them if they ever find this rakish life lonely. I feel like the scene was the start of him beginning to realize who he is, and also going back to who he is. As much as he tries, he can't outrun his sensitivity and romantic side, and he's beginning to accept that. And he finally found someone who accepts him and loves him for who he is. If only the little twerp opened his eyes from the start, we could have avoided all of this. But it's beginning to look like it's too late. This man is jealous. He approaches her right then and there, even though it's not really socially acceptable to do so. He is shameless in his feelings. He stares at her, longing to be with her. He runs after her in that carriage. Seriously, when is it my turn? He does this declaration of love. The carriage scene happens, and now they're engaged. Now that he's sure in who he is and what he wants, he doesn't waste a damn moment. He announces it to their family, takes Pen to their future home, and they have their first time together. This is all in the span of a day. Now, the Whistledown reveal sets things back quite a bit, as it should. His anger is very valid, but Pen has her own declaration of love later on. Even though there's so much going on, so much anger and pain, he yet again can't resist love. Something I really like and respected from Colin, he refused to be physically intimate with Pen because their relationship was going through a tough time. I think of all the Bridgerton couples we've seen so far, even in Queen Charlotte, they haven't done this. If anything, their rage was the catalyst. But as we've clearly seen in previous seasons, Colin is a hopeless romantic, and he views sex as being intertwined with love. He wants every physically intimate moment to be filled with emotions. Yes, he gets tempted here and there, but he doesn't give in until that scene later on, but I'm not counting that actually because that was a love moment, so yeah. Later on, there's a scene where he rereads the letters Penelope sent him. The fact that he kept the letters is already so sweet, by the way. See, I think this is where I have a criticism with this. I feel like because of the lack of screen time, a lot of people felt like the love was rushed, which I can understand too. I feel like if we as the audience got to read their letters a bit more to help understand their friendship, their dynamic, their relationship, it would have been so much better. And I remember like way back in one of the first episodes, there's a scene where Colin is talking to Penelope about the first time they met. I really wish this was a flashback, and I wish we saw more of what they were like when they were kids, because the trope controlling this season is friends to lovers. Yes, we've seen Colin and Penelope interact in the past, but I feel like we as the audience should have seen more of them just having fun a bit more. One of the scenes that stood out to me the most of season 3 is when Colin and Penelope are just giggling together in a ball. It was a really quick scene, but something as simple as that really showcases their friendship, and I feel like we should have just gotten more of that. Another big criticism I've seen online about the last few episodes of season 3 is that Colin didn't do much. When Cressida threatens to blackmail Pen, he didn't play a role in helping her. He offered to pay Cressida, but Pen turned it down. However, I didn't see this as a problem, even when I wasn't on board with Colin's character, because Whistledown was never about Colin. It was always about Pen, and what's happening in season 3 are the consequences of her actions, or in this case, her words. It makes perfect sense for her character arc that she takes full responsibility even when there was a way out. And now, after reflecting on Colin's character, I stand by this even more. I previously mentioned that Colin struggles with a hero complex. He thinks he has to be the hero in order to earn love. But I think the ending to the season was perfect for his arc because he didn't have to do anything. He offered, but I'm 100% sure that Pen would still love him the same if he didn't. He simply just had to be himself. And maybe get a pair of fucking glasses, because if only he saw this 3 seasons ago, this whole mess could have been avoided. I know a lot of people also said that Colin becoming a writer felt really random. I actually thought so too, until I looked back on previous seasons. In season 1, man is spitting out original poetry like off the tip of his tongue. And he's always referencing like mythology, other poets and writers, and just the way he talks about love is so beautiful. Like, he's a softie, and I think his sensitivity and deep emotions would actually make him a great writer. I want to take this section to applaud Luke Newton on his performance because he understood this character long before the rest of us did. One of the reasons why I initially didn't like this character was because I thought Luke's performance was a bit off in part 1. Now looking back, I think that just added to the character. Colin is pretending to be someone he's not, someone that society wants him to be. It's meant to feel weird and unnatural. But once Penelope and Colin kiss, that's when I saw more of the real Colin in Luke's performance. But it wasn't exactly like the naive and youthful Colin we first saw in season 1. It was a more mature version of him, but still very true to the character. Kudos to you, Luke, because you understood the assignment and you did extra credit. So, in conclusion, Colin is actually a pretty good character. He just needed more screen time. While I did enjoy seeing Simon and Anthony, I think that realistically, I would probably choose Colin. I've seen so many romance stories where the guy is a playboy but then gets reformed, but it was nice seeing a lead who was a hopeless romantic from the start and is loved and accepted for being a hopeless romantic. Like, I think that's really sweet. I know the internet is still very divided on this character, but again, I honestly believe that's because of his lack of screen time. If the show had cut out one side plot and given him more screen time to explain things a bit more, I feel like so many more people would be on board. I feel like in a few years down, we'll be looking back on season 3 and be like, okay, he wasn't that bad. And hopefully in future seasons, we get to see more of Colin. And hopefully in a few years down, more people will grow to love and care for Colin for who he is too. Thank you so much for watching. Again, these are just my opinions. Feel free to comment yours. Just remember to be respectful. Follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd to see what I'm up to and what I'm watching. So yeah, subscribe if you want. Have a great day. Bye.